That was a smooth beginning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. We're your host, Cohn and Rob Schuh. It's Friday. The Niners just wrapped up their walkthrough in West Virginia, and they released their injury report. And we're going to talk about this game first. The title of the show is, are the Niners catching 2019 vibes or 2020 vibes? I want you to think about that. Discuss it amongst yourselves. We're going to build there. But first, Rob, how are you? It's great to see you.
Thank you very much, Grant. I am fantastic. I had another fantastic show this week with Sunil joining me on my channel. Shameless plug there. You should go check it out. Rob Schuh. Follow me at The Left Shoe on Twitter. I have a new respect for your ability to host shows. The multitasking that you do in reading through comments and getting it is something that I think most fans do not know and don't appreciate, but I do.
You got to stay engaged in the conversation. You can't just be looking through the comments while Sunil makes great point after great point.
Right. I mean, he is fantastic at just, laying it down, but you got to stay with him. You can't just tune out for a second and read I don't know how you multitask.
Otherwise,
I don't know how you do it.
That's right. At that point. Okay. So anyway. Okay.
Most importantly, though, how many times this week have you sung Motown Philly? That's what I want to know.
Not enough, Rob.
Not enough.
But I'm catching some serious vibes, and I want to talk about the vibes that I'm catching later. But first, let's talk injury report, because this is news. The injury report.
Breaking news.
Breaking. Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead, questionable. No idea if they'll play. And those injuries are interesting. Armstead has a abductor, which is awfully close to the groin, which I'm thinking is going to be an issue if he has to run. And he's going to be chasing Jalen Hurts a lot. So I wonder if he could make the injury worse, seems to me. So I'm not sure he'll play. He may. And then Javon Kinlaw, knee tendonitis, arthritis. He could start the game. He may not finish it. Really curious to see what happens there. He was doubtful for last week, but he was all. So I think they really need him. They really want him. And if he can do it, they'll take him. Just not sure what to expect. But I guess that's good news. The bad news is that Emmanuel Mosley's doubtful. And I've never heard of a player being doubtful and then playing. So it's looking like we're going to go to the Josh Norman experience, which means let's start with our first matchup. Josh Norman versus Eagles' #1 wide receiver, rookie, Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith. How do you see this one playing out?
Ooh, 4.3 speed versus 4.6 speed. And that was a long time ago for Josh Norman. That's a pretty scary matchup. I mean, just to acknowledge that the first two injury situations are good news. They're concerning because you have a flight tomorrow, so Kinlaw's knee could flare up and he may not start, and that would be a critical loss. Short flight, yes, very luckily. Yeah. But a flight nonetheless, and you wonder whether that's going to hold up. And then Armstead, that's a critical piece against a mobile quarterback. He has the ability to cover in space. Previous matchups against Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, I have always thought that Armstead does a good job with mobile quarterbacks in helping to contain them because of his length. But man, this matchup of young speed against veteran savvy, that seems tough to me. Something that I don't think you can really count on man-to-man coverage, Norman being able to keep up. I think you have to scheme around this. I believe that it has to be a scheme, fit, zone coverage, help, and most importantly, that vaunted 49ers pass rush has to get there.
Yeah, it seems to me that you really can't have him in man-to-man coverage. If Jason Verrett were playing, he could go man-to-man with Devontae Smith. But Devontae Smith is great. He's a really good receiver. I'm not going to call him a great receiver. He's played one NFL game, but I've watched a lot of him. He's always been very impressive. He instantly became their he led them in targets week 1. They're going to be operating their passing game through him. And no, you don't want him man-to-man on Lenore. You don't want him man-to-man on Norman. You think they're going to probably play a lot of zone coverage in this game. But the thing is, if they play 8 in the box to stop the run and there's single high and you're playing cover 3 with, 3 deep, 4 underneath, that's still kind of like one-on-one on the outside. I mean, you have help underneath from linebackers and stuff, but those are very fast receivers. And if they want to take shots deep, I think they probably will. I mean, why wouldn't they take shots deep against Josh Norman? You would want to test that. I mean, if Ambry Thomas were on the field, they would go at him fast and aggressively down the field. So I'm curious to see if Josh Norman still has the gravitas and reputation of someone that doesn't get tested like that. But I'm curious. I'm curious.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's hard for me to imagine that he does, given the last few years of play that seem to be much closer to average than anything spectacular. I predict that they will attack him early, just as you're saying there.
yeah. So this is an advantage for the Eagles. Can you hear me? You can hear me. Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
This is an advantage.
I'm just busy talking about my jersey because I got the comment there. No, this is a Bowman jersey here. Navarro Bowman.
Yeah. Okay. So this is advantage for the Eagles, but it doesn't mean the Eagles are going to win the game. It's just something it's the Niners' weakness right now. They're down to their third string corner, right? Verrett's out, Mosley's out. Their starting corners didn't make it to week 2. They're down to third string and fourth string at cornerback. And there is also Jalen Reagor, who runs a 4.2. First round pick, I think, ran a 4.2. And Kez Watkins, who went to Southern Miss and ran a 4.3. I'm not sure exactly how fast Devontae Smith is, but he's really good. So lot of pressure on the Niners cornerbacks to play well in this game, and for the Niners pass rush to step up. Speaking of pass rush, Nick Bosa, the best pass rusher on the team, going against Jordan Mailata. Let's handicap this matchup.
This strikes me as two wildly different players that excel in different ways. So the question really is, how's the matchup going to play out through the game? The way I break down Bosa, and I'm interested to know if you agree, is that he's an incredible tactician. Just grew up in a football family, right? Just been playing football since he was a wee lad, and is extremely...
He was born into his craft like I was.
Yes. That's right. Very similar stories, and similar physiques as well. Just maxed out your frames as best you could. But Bosa is missing some of those stereotypical traits that you would assign to an elite pass rusher. Would you agree with that? He's no Aldon Smith.
Right. He's not 6'5". He doesn't have 34, 35, 36-inch arms. He's what he is he's a technician who is one of the strongest guys at his position in the league. It's a very good combination.
Fantastic combination, and he excels at what he does well. I mean, when we say technician, he is top of his craft at that. The use of his hands is phenomenal. You can really get lost in just watching him go.
The leg strength and the arms. I mean, he has short arms, and he's not that tall, but he has probably the strongest legs in the league of any defensive end, and he can get underneath you, kind of like a young Tyson. Tyson wasn't very tall either. Didn't have that classic heavyweight build. He was like 5'11" or something, but he would get underneath you and knock you out. So I mean, that's how Robert Saleh always compared Nick Bosa. It made a lot of sense.
And when you understand leverage and technique, you can take advantage of that during the game. And I think that that's going to be the story on Sunday, because you have this incredibly gifted, gargantuan man across from him at left tackle, Mailata, that, if I'm correct in what I'm reading here, just learned how to play football in 2018. He's only been doing it for 3 years. Bosa's been doing it since 1907. It's not a fair comparison.
True. But this, to me, is the kind of matchup that gives Bosa the most problems. Like, I'm not saying he's going to get shut down, but Bosa really is the kind of guy who's so consistent, he will absolutely obliterate a backup or someone who's not quite elite. But once he faces someone who's got elite size and elite athleticism, whether or not they're a technician or not, it's kind of, I mean, of course it's anyone's kryptonite, but he doesn't necessarily have the elite physical, natural frame gifts to match up. And I think we saw that a little bit last week with Penei Sewell, who is huge, athletic, a legit top 10 pick at offensive tackle. In Bosa, he won some, and people say got held some, but I mean, there were stretches where you're like, where is he? I mean, Jared Goff's chilling in the pocket. What's up with that? So I could see a lot of that happening. And then also in the run game, Mailata, my God, he's so big. Bosa's very good too, but really I see why they ran for 160 something yards last week.
Did you see that block in space that he made?
Yes. What was your reaction when you saw it?
Oh, I mean, that hurt me.
Yeah. Yep. it seems like the Eagles have really done a good job throughout the years of putting together an offensive line. And one of the things they do well is bank on pure athleticism at that position, even if they're taking it late. I think a lot of people look for experience and success in college, and you end up getting guys who are far less athletic than their counterparts on the D line in the NFL. A lot. I mean, look at Aaron Banks right now. Look at Josh Garnett. These are guys who were highly successful in college and got to the league, and they're like, whoa, I'm not nearly strong enough. Not nearly. It's going to take a while if I ever get there. But then you got these guys who had no, that the Eagles find who had no experience late to the game, but are just so athletically gifted, like the defensive linemen, that they can match up. I think they're really doing it right.
That was a gem. I mean, a great late pick by them, and just fortunate that he has blossomed into the player he did and earned the big contract that he was just awarded with. I do think it'll be a different matchup, whether we're talking about pass protection or run blocking. I hope that Bosa will maintain the edge with technique on pass rushing, that he'll be able to get by Mailata when trying to get to the quarterback. I do worry about it in the run protection because I think that the physical skill set of Mailata, especially out in space, is going to be hard to contain for the 49ers.
Yeah, and I think when people look at this matchup on paper, they would say, oh, big win for the 49ers. And I'm saying, I don't know. I'm not saying it's a win for the Eagles, but I think it's much more even than people would expect. I think Mailata has a lot of traits that you need to match up with Bosa.
I'll be surprised if he doesn't win at least a handful of snaps against Bosa. I think it will be a back and forth battle and not domination by Bosa.
And again, most teams in the NFL do not have two good tackles. Usually one of those tackles is a stiff in the NFL. And Bosa goes to work on those guys. He does not let them off the hook. And that's a great skill. I mean, some guys, he's so consistent that way. But he's not necessarily the guy who can beat the best, most like that's Myles Garrett. That's Von Miller, Khalil Mack. Is that Bosa? Maybe. But he's more the kind of guy who he's like the baseball player, the cleanup hitter who just punishes that fourth pitcher in your rotation, that fifth pitcher. Always, I mean, he's just guaranteed to get it. But then when the play, I'm just saying, that's the way I look at Bosa. If he has to face a real top-notch pitcher, he may not have it that day. Just saying. But I'm a Bosa hater, so it's known.
Sorry. I mean, that is a caveat that you have to throw out there.
Known Bosa hater.
I think that the tape backs you up to some degree. I mean, I may not agree with you wholeheartedly, but part of that is the homer in me and not wanting to admit that there are any flaws in this 49er team and that we're perfect and fantastic and Bosa is unstoppable. But the reality is that if there's anyone he does struggle against, it's these physically elite tackles within the league. And certainly it would seem, while inexperienced, we are up against one on Sunday.
Yeah, true. I mean, who do most of his sacks come against in his career? I mean, who has he gotten? Got Eric Fisher in the Super Bowl. He worked Eric Fisher. I mean, he should. Eric Fisher isn't good. He worked Alejandro Villanueva as a rookie, that for sure. I'm just saying when he went up against Orlando Brown, Kai Becton, a little bit quieter. Same thing with his brother Joey. Joey's really good. If you have like a subpar offensive tackle, Joey's going to work him all day. But if you have Trent Brown, you might not see Joey that day. In fact, that's what's happened in the – anyway, that's enough of Nick. Nick, advantage 49ers in this matchup, but I'm curious to see how much – if the Eagles can at least make it a push. That's what I'm saying.
I concur.
Yeah. Gabriel says Niners will be the 20 Eagles. QB experiment will fail. Well, that is the worst-case scenario because the 20 Eagles were a 4-11-1 disaster, and coach got fired, quarterback got shipped off. But I can see why you would make that parallel because what was they won the Super Bowl. Okay, like the Niners, except they actually won the Super Bowl. But they were that was 2017.
Correct.
18, 19, 20, just nothing but distractions. Who's our quarterback, Foles or Wentz or Hurts? And does the coach have the locker room? Are they split? A lot of the same stuff that we're kind of rumbling. We haven't really heard yet, but we're kind of assuming. So it could go that direction. I think the better example would probably be the Dolphins from last year, where they go back and forth and they don't know really what they want to do, but they win a lot of games and they finally figured out next year. Eagles, that's bad. That can't be that.
Yeah, this team is too talented to be the 20 Eagles.
Can't be that. I mean, it could be that, but I would
Good.
hope it's not that.
A
That's the
few more
cool.
injuries and it will be that bad.
Right, because they have a big time injury team, but they had a lot of distractions. And what I'm seeing from the Eagles right now is they're all gone. The who's the quarterback stuff is gone. The unpopular coach is gone. And now you just have, I mean, who knows what Nick Sirianni is, but you have a lot of the same players who have been to Pro Bowls and won a Super Bowl, and a fresh future, a young quarterback, a young coach, optimism. They're not dwelling in the past and trying to figure out whose fault it was or revenge tour. It's like, it's nice. It's nice. And the Niners, I feel like they're kind of stuck. They haven't committed to the future yet. And that's, so yeah, they do have some 2020 Eagles vibes. Not that bad though.
Nick Sirianni is like the real life version of Ted Lasso in everything that I'm seeing from him so far.
What do you mean?
I mean, he comes across as absolutely a player's coach, that he genuinely cares about the individuals. Right. Best illustrated by the story and the handshake with Jalen Hurts and the story behind it, where it's the handshake that Sirianni does with his own son, but he's now introduced it and doing it with Hurts, and he did it on the sideline in the game, and it was, dun, dun, boom, dap. A little air guitar. I don't know what it was, but it was a coordinated handshake, and it looked like Harbaugh, Alex Smith vibes.
You know what I was going to say is it reminds me a little of Robert Saleh, the way Robert Saleh gets so excited for his players. I think it comes across as off the cuff, but these are things coaches think about. And I think these coaches want to be seen as people who have a good relationship with their players. Look at me interact with my quarterback. We get along. We have a personal relationship. We like each other. And I think that's something that Kyle takes for granted. He's looking at his play sheet. He thinks his play sheet, his game, his playbook is so great that all that other stuff isn't as necessary. And I think you see other guys make a point of doing that stuff. Saleh, Sirianni, McVay. And I think maybe it's not something that Kyle can do. It's not necessarily his personality. I don't know why I have to turn everything to a negative, Kyle. I'm sorry, Kyle. I'm just it's a contrast. It's a contrast. I definitely see what you're saying. Sirianni seems like a natural extrovert, whereas Kyle's a little more introverted.
It is a contrast, and it is a fair critique of Kyle. I think you have to call out that Kyle is phenomenal at the playbook stuff, at the game planning, and that is an incredible strength for him. But in the same breath, it's important to call out when you have a shortcoming, and it does seem that the personal interactions, and we'll touch on this a little bit later, just don't seem to be his forte.
No, or not something he's really interested in. And there's one more thing. I don't want to get too much into the Eagles, but what they're doing, guys, when you watch the Eagles this weekend, and they may lose, but what they're doing with Jalen Hurts is perfect, and it's what Kyle could be doing with Trey Lance right now. Just keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on.
And it's fun to watch.
Very, very fun to watch. Like, the throws they're asking him to make from the pocket are like screen, 3-yard throw. Like, it doesn't have to be that hard. A lot of easy layups from the pocket, and when you need the big play, and then you get him on the perimeter, like the stuff we've been talking about. You'll see. You guys will see. He's actually very good. Anyway, let's talk about what the Eagles are going to try to do.
Yeah, so what will the Eagles offense look like? I think that they are going to attack the 49ers in much the same way that they came out in week 1 and really try to run over San Francisco. That is my prediction. So when you look at what they did in week 1, they operated primarily in the run pass option with quick screen passes to get it out to their playmakers in space, as you were saying there, and really very few intermediate and really no deep shots on Sunday. I think that
for a touchdown, and then pretty much that was
and even that wasn't that far downfield, right?
No, so it wasn't.
And then the breakdown of how they actually lined up, just to throw this out there for context, out of 67 offensive plays, 40 of them were in 11 personnel with 1 tight end, 1 running back, 18 in 12 personnel, 8 in 13 personnel with 3 tight ends on the field, and 1 in 21 personnel. So it does appear
40 in nickel, I guess, and then the other 30-ish plus is going to be against your base. Sorry.
I mean, it sets up perfectly for another run-first attack with the Eagles. And to me, I think that what you're looking at is the 49ers truly being tested. Obviously, they have an elite defensive line. I don't think that that's in question here. I think everyone would admit it's a very deep defensive line, and it is a very talented defensive line. Perhaps you will disagree with that statement.
I don't know.
But I think that the question mark is going to be, can the linebackers hold up in this matchup? Because we know that the scheme is going to be to protect the cornerbacks, right? That is our weakness, is the secondary for sure. So you have to think that we're going to game plan around that. The question for me is whether the linebackers are going to be gap sound on Sunday and be able to match up against the Eagles.
See, I'm more concerned about the defensive tackles. It seems to me that the Eagles have a very good offensive line, and what they can do is what the Lions have a very good offensive line too. And they were able to run between the tackles because they were just blowing those defensive tackles off the ball. Kinlaw didn't play. And I think you're seeing that the Niners really want Kinlaw and Armstead to play this game. I think they felt they could win without them, without Kinlaw in particular against the Lions, and they were right. But this game's going to be much, much closer. And if Kinlaw doesn't play, the Niners are going to have a lot of trouble stopping the run, because Street, Givens, Kerr, all these guys were getting moved around by double teams. Everyone except for DJ Jones, pretty much. So I do think they're going to look to run over the Niners, and they're going to have a very difficult rushing attack. I mean, what they do, they basically have – here's what you need to know about the Eagles. Nick Sirianni's been the offensive coordinator for the Colts the last 3 years. So there's a whole track record on what he does. And he runs the ball a lot. And he's been running the ball a lot. I mean, that's why Phillip Rivers wanted to go there. It's like, look, this is a really good offensive line and run game. He had success with Jacoby Brissett. You understand? Like, and these quarterbacks are not part of the run game. So now you have a guy who has a natural he's been working out of the shotgun anyway. And he's been running the ball effectively with quarterbacks who aren't part of that. Now you've got Jalen Hurts in there. It's going to be a very good running game. And the Niners ran for 120-something yards. This team ran for 160. Both teams are facing terrible, terrible defenses. But don't take this running game for granted. It's a coach who is committed to it, has had success with it. He's got a really good running back, a quarterback who is one of the better quarterback runners in the league, and a very good offensive line. And the way they do it too, you called it an ARP. It's like, I call them SROs, screen run options. It's like the fake run, and then if it's not there, you pull it back, and instead of running, you throw the screen. Those are layups, easy throws for a young quarterback, and it forces Deommodore Lenoir to make a tackle, Josh Norman to make a tackle. Like, God forbid Ambry Thomas, like Josh Norman gets hurt and Ambry Thomas has to come in this game, because all he's going to get, forget coverage. All he's going to get is screens to him, and you got to tackle 4-3 runners, and if you miss, it's touchdown. So that's one of the reasons I don't think Ambry Thomas is going to start in this game. I mean, they're going to force these DBs to tackle on the perimeter.
That's absolutely true.
Although these are another run game. Yeah.
These are slightly undersized wide receivers, and so that is a little comforting. And Ambry Thomas's seems to be that his weakness is he needs to pack on some pounds, right? When you look at his frame out there on the field, he does seem to be skinnier than you want when he's going to make that tackle.
Yeah.
To me, there are some things to be optimistic about that I saw within the game on Sunday, and that was the idea that Sirianni is really attempting to put his players in the best chance to be successful, and I think that may make them a bit more predictable on offense. Now, the RPO or the SRO is certainly going to complicate that to some degree, but for example, he recognized Whiteside as a fairly below average pass catcher, but a phenomenal run blocker. And so when he's in the game, when you have those tight end heavy sets in the game, I think you're going to see a slightly predictable game plan that you know when the runs are coming, and thereby helping the 49ers to diagnose what they have in front of them. I didn't think that the Falcons did a good job of diagnosing that, but with a week of game film on what Sirianni is doing, if they don't change up the game plan, to me that strikes as an advantage from a experienced 49er team.
And, the Niners are going to look to avoid the Eagles pass rush because it's really good, obviously. I mean, the Eagles are going to do the same thing with the Niners. And we saw how their offense is going to look. Quick passes, not trying to throw down the field. When he has the ball, he's in the shotgun, ball's out. And a lot of times it's balls out screens. So what you're going to get is the Niners chasing screens left and right. And that's exhausting. Eric Armstead, you got an abductor that hurts. Now chase 40 screens, or not 40, 10. Bosa, chase 10 screens and let's see what kind of pass rush you got in the fourth quarter. And then when they finally do drop him back on like 3rd and 6, he'll have a read to throw, but if there's any daylight for him to scramble, he'll take it, and so that it's going to be very difficult for the part of the Eagles looking to run the Niners over is the scrambling. I mean, the thing what I've been watching with Hurts is they'll call a couple of zone reads where he runs so that it's in the Niners' head and they have to honor it, but most of his runs are scrambles. He's very willing to scramble, and he's very freaking good at it.
He is. He's a talented runner, and I anticipate that the Eagles will gash the 49ers defense this weekend. I think that we are destined to see that. I think that it will be in the run game. I think that it'll be difficult for the 49ers to stop it, even recognizing what's going to come. Let me throw this out there and tell me if you agree with this strategy. I was trying to think, if I put myself in the 49ers shoes, how do I go about attempting to stop this? And it took me back to the 2012 Super Bowl with the Ravens, wondering whether we attack them in the way that the Ravens defense attacked Kaepernick.
I see what you're saying. Like punish them for running the zone read. That's a good idea. I think it could work. But I don't know how many opportunities the Niners will have to do that. A lot of his runs are scrambles. And so what I think that's a great strategy, and they should do that for sure. I think there's more things they need to do. And we were talking from the beginning of this topic, defensive linemen versus linebackers. I feel this is a defensive lineman responsibility. I feel like there's two, and D'Amico. There's a couple of things here. I've talked to Robert Saleh about the wide 9. He implemented it in 2019 specifically for offenses like the Rams, who had a guy like Jared Goff in a one-back running game, okay?
Yeah.
It's what it's for. It's not really for offenses that are run-first attacks that have a quarterback who can run. If you watch in 2019 when they went and played the Ravens, they did not use the wide 9. They used a 5-man front. It seems to me if you use this really spread out gimmick attack that's really designed for something else, you could get gashed and it's not your player's fault. So there's that. And I want to see D'Amico, if it doesn't work, if Kinlaw isn't effective, if the wide 9 isn't working, what else can you go to? Because the Eagles have a lot of different fronts. They're a 4-3 team, but in this last game, they were playing 3-4-2. They were playing 3-4 as well. And they will have 3-4 looks against the Niners because that's the most effective way to stop the Jimmy Garoppolo run game. It's what the Dolphins did last year when you play basically 2 guys set the edge, pack the middle. Don't let the Niners double team with their center and guards, put 3 guys on those 3 guys. It's a very effective way to stop that running game. So the Eagles can do that. What is your changeup, D'Amico? That's big.
Yeah.
The other thing real quick on the scrambles, that's on the DNs. You can't rush too far upfield because what Jalen Hurts does is he drops back, boom, steps up. And now he can go up and right, go up. And what I like about it is he climbs the pocket and goes out. So they need to basically don't go for the sack. Don't go too far upfield. Make him try to spin out and behind because Bosa can run him down that way. Ebukam can run him down that way. Ford can run him down that way. But if you let him get up and out, it's over. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. That's what they let with Bosa does it too. Last year when they lost to Kyler week 1, there was that 3rd and 18 when Kyler ran for 20. It was on Bosa's side. He ran too far upfield. You got to know who you're rushing. You want him throwing on 3rd and 18, not running. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that is a valid concern. I believe that the 49ers defense is the more talented unit on the field in comparison to the Philadelphia offense. But that doesn't matter if you're not disciplined in your rush. That's because Hurts could do some serious damage against us if we are undisciplined and create 4-lane highways for him to run through.
Those are layups for him. Make him execute from the pocket. What he's doing right now is getting the ball and throwing quick 1-read throws from the pocket. Make him actually take a 5-step drop and make a full field read from the pocket. That's not what he wants to do. That's not what they want him to do.
And scheme up coverages in such a way that you are able to get hits on the quarterback. If you can't dirty up his uniform a little bit in this game, if he gets too comfortable back there, it's going to be a long afternoon. You really got to be, whether you sack him or not is almost, out of what I'm saying here. I mean, you just got to hit the guy.
They got to do zone blitzes. They can't afford to rush. I mean, you'd like to rush 5 because that negates a gap and it makes it much more difficult to scramble. It pretty much creates a little cage 5-on-5. But if you do that, you need to play man coverage, and he can dice. I mean, he can make quick throws to good receivers who can win. So I think what you could do is zone coverages where you drop people out and bring overload one side and try to confuse Jalen Hurts. You could try that. You definitely need to get some pressure.
Yeah, you're essentially daring him to make that throw under pressure and see if he can make a quality throw in that scenario, because we really didn't see that last week. So let's get in his face and let's see if he doesn't toss up a duck.
Absolutely. Sean Shepard says, do you think the defensive assistants that were DCs need to help D. Ryan's game manage? Thanks for killing, guys. It's not that. I mean, if what I'm saying is they need a second defensive front that specializes in stopping the run, because the wide 9 is about stopping the pass while still being effective against one back running games. This is not that. This is a run first team. You need to have something else. You can't let the Eagles beat you by handing off to Miles Sanders and letting him average 7 yards carry up the middle. That can't happen. And if that's what's happening against a wide 9, what's your adjustment? Did you practice that this offseason? Did you think about needing this? Maybe. That's what I want to know.
To your point, that is exactly what the 49ers believe the Eagles are going to do to them. So if they are unable to adjust and stop it, that's very concerning.
I mean, everyone knows they're going to do that. So what's your plan here? Alex Medina says Lenora, 5th round gem, Greenlaw. Yeah, so far. He's been their best rookie so far.
Yes.
Lawless Light says Niner fans aren't going to want to hear this, but with all these injuries, only teams that go to the playoffs are teams that have a quarterback to take them. The irony. Yeah, we're going to talk about the vibes in a minute. You're right, though. And, Jimmy did look really good week 1, so maybe he can do that. He did look really good week 1. Although, he only got touched 3 times. That's a big reason why he looks so good. If you can keep Jimmy upright, he can do that. He'll be mini Brady. I'm not going to say that.
That's taking it a bit far.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for the $2. Theodore says Grant is the reason why Niners don't have a starting caliber cornerback. Here's $5. I try to tell them, but they just spite me. They just don't. Grant, you're a Niner hater, not a Bosa hater. Big difference. True. I'm equal opportunity. Yes, good call.
Are.
Thank you. All right, let's talk about the Eagles defense and what they're aiming to do with the Niners offense.
Yeah, it would seem obvious based on how they executed last week that they will look to keep everything in front of them. It seemed that they played the vast majority of the game with 2 deep safeties and tried to keep everything in front of them with the bend but don't break mentality. And they did get gashed. The start of that game, the first half up until the 2-minute drive, was a very close game. I mean, it was back and forth. The Falcons just failed to put the ball in the end zone when they got down inside the red zone, but they were moving the ball. They were gashing them on run plays. It certainly appeared as though it was going to be a close game until it wasn't. So I tried to look up, what is Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator's strategy, going to be going into this? And from what I saw on Sunday, he had a lot of different defensive fronts that he put out there. I believe it was 18 different players rotated in and out on defense. On the linebacker level, he actually, toward the end of the game for the second half, was platooning in different linebacking cores for expected run or pass plays. So I think, again, you get into a scenario where potentially you have a bit of a predictable scenario that Kyle Shanahan, as a very experienced play caller, should be able to take advantage of. I mean, if I'm Kyle Shanahan and I see you substitute into a package where I know you're expecting run, and I have a team that's capable of doing everything out of the same formation, I'm now going to keep those guys on the field with a no-huddle offense, and I'm going to dominate in whatever way is opposite of the scheme that you thought as a defensive coordinator. So if you put in those linebackers that are great against the run, great. I'm going to be throwing it and keeping the ball moving and keeping Jimmy just alert going down the field. To me, that's an area of opportunity in attacking this.
Look, I'm not an expert on Jonathan Gannon and the Eagles defense, although I know a little bit about him. I watched their game, but the way I'm thinking they're going to attack this, or the way I would, they're a split safety defense. Okay. Sure, they like to run cover 2 and stuff like that. So you think, all right, okay, 7 in the box, let's run the ball. Well, here's what I would do if I was facing Jimmy Garoppolo on the 49ers. I would play split safety too, but I would have those guys line up about 9 yards off the ball. They wouldn't be deep. Why would I line them up deep, Rob? For what? They're not going to throw deep. I want them to throw deep. Please throw deep. No. I would have a 9-man box. That's how I would look at it. Split safeties, but they're 9 yards off the ball. That's the way Fangio used to do it. Very aggressive. And you can do that because you have a really freaking good front seven. Let's call it a pass rush in Philly. I don't know about their linebackers, but they have a really freaking good pass rush. And if you do want to pass and take advantage of those safeties who are so far in, I mean, good luck. You're not going to have much time. That's going to be a low percentage throw. They don't have good linebackers, but if you're playing 9 in the box, that really helps. That's what I would do.
And their defensive line is 49ers East. It is deep. It is talented. They platoon them in and out. All 10 linemen were suited and played on Sunday. I expect the same thing. They spread out the snaps to keep them fresh, to keep them coming after the quarterback, wave after wave. So I do think that the 49ers have to be willing to take some of those deep shots, because if I'm the Eagles, I'm doing exactly what you're talking about. I am not respecting the deep ball game because historically I've not seen you do it successfully, San Francisco. And so why would I scheme against that? I'm going to do what I think you're going to try and do to me. I'm going to cover what I think you're going to do to me, and that's run the ball down my throat. So I am going to stack the line of scrimmage. I am going to play close up. Yeah. Make you beat me deep.
Yeah. So what are we going to do as 49ers quality control? How do you beat that? Well, what is the weakness on the Eagles defense? To me, it's not their D line. It's not their number one corner, Darius Slay. He can cover Deebo Samuel for sure. The Lions didn't have anyone who could cover Deebo, so the Niners targeted him 12 times. Also have a really good free safety, Anthony Harris. So Kittle, the Eagles' weakness, as you pointed out, is their linebackers. They're trying to platoon them. They got run defenders. They got pass. It's like, okay, first down, Kittle. They're going to go to Kittle. They went to Kittle 5 times. They could go to him 13 times in this game. Kittle's going to have a big game. Now, I would also expect the Eagles to be bracketing him as much as possible and just put Slay on Deebo and feel good about it. But the Niners I think are going to – so there's a lot of ways they can go with the linebackers. You can throw to Kittle, but you can also do the end arounds to Deebo and get instead of having the Eagles linebackers playing a phone booth and attack you between the tackles, which they could probably do, get them running left and right. How athletic are they? That kind of stuff. I think that should be effective.
Yeah, stretch them sideline to sideline with the jet sweeps, and then attack them in the middle immediately behind that defensive line with George Kittle.
Yeah, I mean, you can have Deebo coming across. You can fake it to him, and then you can do the RPO with Kittle over the middle. I mean, things like that.
To me, it goes back to that ability to run different plays out of the same formation. If it doesn't look like Shanahan has set this defense up, if we don't see a few of those plays where basically the play call just makes the defense look silly, I'll be disappointed. If Shanahan cannot take advantage of an inexperienced coaching staff at this point on offense with what we saw last week with the talent on this team, that'll be cause for concern for me. I expect the 49ers to gash the Eagles, much like I expect the Eagles to gash the 49ers.
Agree. I expect the same thing. Matt H says small sample, but the read option with Trey feels predictable. Agree. Need to start faking all the gadget stuff with Deebo in the backfield off of it. Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to say. Another way to attack these linebackers, Trey Lance. When Harbaugh used to go against teams with bad linebackers, the Packers, for example, back in the day, I mean, Colin Kaepernick would run for 180 yards or something like that, and they would be spinning around in circles. So if the Eagles have a good plan for the run game the Niners showed last week with Jimmy Garoppolo, bring in Trey Lance, and to Matt's point, don't do all those runs that didn't work against the Lions. Because I know Mike McDaniel's like, well, if we knew, we'd call the ones that would work. Those ones look pretty vanilla. The Niners showed more creativity against the Raiders with their run package than they did against the Lions. So I'd like to see like a more sophisticated, more successful Trey Lance package. And that's not 80% runs. That's some runs, some throws. I would like this. Why not? He threw a touchdown pass. Give him 2 throws in this game. How about 2 throws and some handoffs, some runs as well? Make it a little bit less predictable. He's important in this game, I think.
Yeah, if the 49ers were setting up something with those 3 predictable runs, they failed to then actually execute whatever it was they were setting up.
Set it up for this. Oh, you think it's going to be a bad run, huh? Oh, here you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that to me is necessary. Perhaps they were holding it back. Perhaps they thought that Detroit didn't have enough, and they were right. Even with all the small mistakes that happened at the end of the game, the 49ers were able to hold on to that no problem. But that's not going to be the case this week. You can't hold any tricks back.
I think you're definitely onto something. Kyle would never say that. But look, he's a very arrogant coach. And I think he also, not that he's arrogant, but he thinks he knows what's going to happen before it happens. He doesn't even have to see it. So he can look at the match and be like, all right, we don't need Brandon Ayuk this week. Let's send him a message. 26 clear out routes for you, Brandon. Afterwards, we'll say it wasn't your fault. It was just Trent Sherfield being so good. But we're going to send Brandon Ayuk a message today. We're going to rest Javon Kinlaw. I mean, I think it's probably that there was some yeah, the Lions were awful. It should have been a 41-17 win. The Eagles, to me, like the Lions look like a 3-win team. The Eagles look like a 9-win team. This is a whole different thing.
Yes, and an exciting 9-win team at that. Not one that's going to stall out on offense. They're going to put up some points this year.
The best teams in the NFC East to me are Philly and Dallas. And the thing about Philly is they actually have some stuff on defense. I don't know. I mean, Dallas has some players on defense, I guess, but I think I like Philly's defense better, but we don't need to get into that yet. Voice ad agency says, I know the Lions are not the best defense, but since the Jets last season until now, Jimmy looks like he has the offense down pat. He really looked good against the Lions this year and the Jets last year. What do those two have in common? I don't know. Maybe that they're awful on defense, but I don't want to be the negative guy all the time. Yes, I do. Michael says, get Juice involved. Mullins missed Juice on fullback wheel last year against Eagles. They're going to call it again. First play. Second play. Just to get it right this time. Okay, moving on. Vibes. Are you catching them? 2019, that's what the Niners are saying. 2019 vibes. When they would get a feel for that pass rush swarming or that run defense or that run offense just overwhelming people. 2019 vibes. When you see Jimmy Garoppolo complete a pass for 13 yards and Deebo Samuel runs for 50 after that. 2019 vibes. But when you see 3 players go down with season-ending injuries, week 1, 2020 vibes. And it's hard because the vibes are competing. Which vibes are you picking up, Rob?
Unfortunately, I'm picking up a bit of both at this point. Certainly the 49ers moves in the preseason, in the offseason, are indicative of 2019 vibes, that they believe that it's 2019 vibes. When you say to yourself, you know what, we're going to keep Jimmy on the roster at $27 million, and we're going to start him even though we invested a hell of a lot into this rookie quarterback, that's 2019 vibes.
2019 vibes.
If you sign a significant number of vets to a 1-year deal, kicking the can down the road, what is that, Grant?
2019 vibes.
Yes, indeed. When you bring back a lot of high potential players, but they are high injury risks, what is that, Grant?
2019 vibes.
There it is. So yes, those things to me scream 2019 vibes. And week 1 with the injuries scream 2020 vibes. It was painful, right? It's critical players at critical positions, one of which I will say, I think that we're incredibly deep in the running back room, and as talented as Mostert is and as special of a player as he is, and that's a heartbreaking loss for me, being a big fan of him, and the human aspect of it is very tough. But I do think that we have the talent there. However, when you start to look at other position groups, in particular that thin secondary, you have to wonder if the 49ers will be able to overcome it. Now, the front office is stuck on 2019 vibes, and so it does seem like they are going to patch any holes that spring up in the boat, right? See some water spring up through the bottom of the boat, throw a patch on it, throw a Band-Aid on it, spend some money. And to me, it raises the issue of, in 2020, what we did was a bunch of Band-Aids that it turned out didn't make the 49ers relevant. But what it did do was hamstring them this year in the ability to go out and get quality free agents. Because Steven Nelson, who's going to be playing on Sunday, isn't going to be playing for the 49ers because they couldn't afford to sign him. They couldn't afford any cornerback depth.
That's true.
So if we continue to have these injuries, will the 49ers foolishly chase after this dream that it's 2019 and we are going to have our revenge tour that we couldn't have last year. Or
well, hold on. Here's
yeah,
why it's complicated, Rob. They won.
tell me.
They won. In
Yes.
2020, they lost week 1. And it was DEFCON 4 from the minute they lost that game to Arizona. Niner fans were freaking out. And then Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt like 5 minutes in to the next game. I mean, that was last year. So the wheels fell off last year freaking immediately. And they almost fell off week 1. They almost had the most dramatic collapse I've ever seen, ever in an NFL game. They were that close. But it didn't happen. They won. They won, and they're 1-0, and they could be 3-0. They could be 3-0 real quick. So I don't know. Look, I was really down on the 2019 team too. Going into the offseason, into the training camp, I wrote them off 6-10. And then when they won their first 2 games, I was like, okay, but it was the Bucks and it was the Bengals. And then they blew out the Browns. I was like, all right, but Freddie Kitchens sucks. You're 3-0, okay, but I'm not even impressed yet. And then they beat the Steelers without Joe Staley while committing 5 turnovers, and I was like, damn, they're 4-0. And then they were 8-0, and then they went to the Super Bowl. So it was kind of like, if you remember, it was not real clear that 2019 vibes were that we didn't get the 2019 vibes in 2019 until like almost 2020. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you didn't realize how special the team was right away. It took a while to and that could be the case here. It would seem like it'd be flip the script on this one, that if we have some 2019 vibes, it's 2019, but with a twist that it's more the offense being able to perform at the level that the defense performed in 2019, because I cannot see this defense being as dominant as I had originally predicted it at the beginning of the year. The concern with Kinlaw being healthy all year, that changes the game on being able to stop the run. And if you can't stop the run in this league, God help you. God help you.
Right. I just, what I'm not getting 2019 vibes on, the defense at all. At all. The 2019 defense was one of the best defenses in franchise history. It was really freaking good. From the coaching to the players to the depth, everything. This one, I mean, with Verrett and Saleh, they could have been their best defense yet.
Yes.
I mean, Verrett plus Bosa. I mean, they didn't really ever have that. Plus Saleh, but they don't. Verrett's out. Saleh's gone. Now, I mean, D'Amico probably does certain things very well, but we'll see. We will see what this secondary and this coaching staff can do. Not getting 2019 vibes there. Or even 2020 vibe, because that was a top 5 defense last year. I'm just saying.
It was. I think that this defense can still be very formidable. I just don't see it as that elite defense that I was predicting at the beginning of the year, because that was predicated on staying healthy, and week 1 obliterated that hope.
You know what the vibes I'm getting are? 2021 vibes. I just started picking them up right now. I guarantee you that's what they are. 2021 vibes. It'll be very interesting to see how they manifest. I think it's going to have to be a really good offense, man. Really good. Really
it's going to need to be 2016 Falcons good.
That's a lot of pressure on whichever quarterback. Probably Jimmy. Jimmy, go be Matt Ryan. Maybe. My dad thinks. Did you hear my dad this week?
No, I haven't yet.
So I was making a case that the Eagles are good. I was like, look, man, I mean, they just ruined Matt Ryan week 1. Ruined Matt Ryan. I mean, he threw for like 140 yards, and I think Matt Ryan's is better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Matt Ryan's. And my dad's like, whoa. Matt Ryan's a loser. I was like, oh, okay.
Ooh, Lowell.
Whoa, what? Matt Ryan? I mean, he played a lot better in the Super Bowl he lost than Jimmy did. I'm just saying. But okay, loser. But no, really, I mean, 140 yards, Jimmy. They can't put the game in Jimmy's hands. They got to run the ball really well, and that means Debo has to be a hell of a running back, and Kittle has to 10 catches. Kittle, you need 10 catches, I think, in this game. 10.
Abuse those linebackers. They are there for it.
That's right. Grant, doesn't Sherfield look like the best catching passes from Lance? Maybe Kyle loves Lance and trying to set him up with sure-handed wide receiver. I want to say something real quick about Sherfield. So they didn't use Ayuk last week. They made him run routes, 26, no targets. And afterward, they're like, well, he missed a little time with a hamstring. And Sherfield is just so good. And what they said was, Sherfield is better than any backup Ayuk's ever had. And I'm thinking, That sounds normal. That sounds reasonable. But who was Ayuk's backup last year?
Kendrick Bourne?
Yeah, Kendrick Bourne. Look, all due respect to Trent Sherfield, who's having a great. I like Trent Sherfield. He's a great story. He's not that yet. Kendrick Bourne has more than 100 catches in the NFL. He just got his second contract. He's got he's got millions of dollars. Trent Sherfield is a good story who had 5 catches last year and 2 catches so far this year. I think is a little disrespectful and a little disingenuous to say the reason, not disrespectful, is straight up disingenuous to say the reason that Ayuk didn't get a single target is because Trent Sherfield is miles beyond what Kendrick Bourne was and is. That's not what the issue is. It's something with Ayuk. Don't give me that.
Yeah. Don't get this twisted. I mean, Kendrick Bourne was a clutch wide receiver. The third down catches, a red zone target. I mean, yeah, let's not disrespect KB. The dancing
alone.
Come on.
It was phenomenal, as my dad would say. Phenomenal. I love that.
Okay. Yeah, what I think is, and this perfect segue here for us, but I certainly think that Kyle wanted to send a message to Brandon Ayuk. The message got a little louder than maybe he anticipated that it would, and he needed to walk that thing back.
Agree. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think what you said is that Kyle likes that dog mindset. And to me, what is that? To me, it's Trent Sherfield. 100, everything that he's about. It's a guy who practices his hardest every day, is consistent, doesn't miss time, isn't necessarily the most gifted athlete. No. Isn't skating by on his first round pedigree or gifts, is the grinder. Also someone who has no ego. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, coach. No, coach. Whatever you want me to do, I'm here for it. That is the dog mindset that he seems to love in George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. It is not what Dante Pettis had. And I think from the coded language they're saying about Brandon Ayuk, needs to assert himself, needs to be more consistent in practice, needs to run his routes harder in practice. Seems to me that's what they're talking about with him, that dog mindset, and he may not have it. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems to be something that Shanahan craves, and perhaps it goes back to what he saw in himself as a less than stellar, physically gifted wide receiver back in college, that he had to have this professionalism and bring his lunch pail to work every day and grind. And
frankly, Wes Welker was the same way. Not exactly a first-round pick.
Right.
Yeah. And he's a borderline Hall of Famer, so he can have some strong opinions on what it takes.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with seeking out that type of a player. I think that it's great to have an ideal in mind. But what struck me is, while being so particular and looking for a type of mindset, it seems like the 49ers, between Shanahan and Lynch, are awful at judging who has that mindset prior to drafting them.
I agree. But, I think I figured this out. They got it right one year with one player. Deebo. How did they get it right with Deebo? Do you remember what was different about this? Is the Hanukkah question. What was different? What about 2019 was different from all other drafts for the 49ers?
Coaching the Senior Bowl?
Coached the Senior Bowl. Yes. So Kyle and Saleh were around those guys all week, got to know them. And I think what we saw with Dante Pettis is, you may have liked his tape, but you didn't know him at all. And there was a reason the scouts were down on him, and you didn't get it. And then with Brandon Ayuk, I'm not saying that he's Dante Pettis, but you didn't know him as well as you knew Deebo Samuel. And if there's something about him that you're just now discovering that you're not wild about, that's because you didn't know him as well as Deebo Samuel. And so when you have these coaches picking players, it helps when they get to coach the Senior Bowl. It only helps. And when they don't, and they still have the same type of conviction, these things can happen.
Yeah, to me, it seems inflexible. It seems to be another area where potentially ego is entering the equation. It's an unwillingness to simply coach a different style of player in that regard. If you're not great at picking out who has this dog mindset, then you need to get over requiring this dog mindset of your wide receivers. To me, it seems a little bit ridiculous that we even have the term doghouse for Kyle. The idea that he needs to send this message by sitting a player. I mean, these are grown men, professionals. It would seem that you could coach them up in some other way as opposed to this sink or swim way in which Kyle seems to throw his wide receivers out there and just say, all right, either you can or you can't. You cannot do that to a former first-round pick that you expect great things from. Coach him up.
You traded up for him. Here's how I look at it. It's like Kyle's single, all right? And he's looking for that wide receiver that he can settle down with. And he's on Tinder, and he sees one, and he just is like, that's the one. Oh, my God. What a first impression. Look at that. And within 15 minutes, he's got his mind made up. And he trades up, and he makes a real aggressive play. And then on like the fourth date, he's like, I didn't know this person at all. This is not what I had in mind. I'm totally disappointed. And over and over and over again. It's like the only time he had a natural connection that just blossomed was with Debo. You got to know the guy. He floored you. But you looked at Ayuk on Tinder. You looked at Dante Pettis on Tinder for 2 seconds. You were like, yep, that's my type. And then you went on the 8th date and you're like, oh my God. If you talk about cats one more freaking time, Dante, it's over. I don't like cats. That's to me, that's Kyle.
Yeah, they moved in together a little too early.
Yeah, absolutely. He keeps doing that. Stop trading up for these guys. You don't even know them. Kyle. He's like, hey, man, this is the one. Dude, you got on one date. It was on Zoom. It was a Zoom date. It was a Zoom date. It was speed dating. All right, Will Craig says, if we average 35 plus a game, do you think that's enough to help bail out a lesser performing defense? I think it's possible. You know, if the Niners average 36 points a game, somehow, some way, I think they're going to win some games. We think. That might be enough. That might be enough.
If you can score an average 35 and you're not winning games, you are setting records.
Average 130 per game. Do you think they'll go to the playoffs? Yes. Will, I'm not making fun of you. I like the question. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This offense, yeah. And that's what we're expecting this week, essentially.
That's right. And the number may be high there, but the question is the same, is can the 49ers offense score enough to keep them relevant throughout the season with what appears to be a flawed or at least a defense lacking depth?
They're lucky that their only injury on offense right now is at running back because that's their deepest position. If they start losing offensive linemen, God help them. Not God. It's not that serious. I'm sorry. Heaven. Pete. Who's Pete? For Pete's sake. Fitzgerald has said to watch Sherfield. I'm watching. I like him. We all like him. I
do. I'm very high on Sherfield. I love a guy that you can count on him to be there. You can count on him to be a professional. I certainly think that benefits all the other wide receivers in the room. No question about it.
Yeah. Isaac Hardman says may have been covered already as they're a proven young cornerback to trade the 2020 second rounder that could be available at the deadline, hopefully sooner. CJ Henderson isn't exactly proven, but he was a first round pick. I don't know. It's so hard to get corners midseason.
It is. And you have to wonder if chasing one now, unless it is a young guy with a high ceiling, if that's just more 2019 vibes, if that's just chasing something that's not going to help this year that hurts them next season. Again, I think that if you're going with someone young with high potential, I love it. But if you're just trying to cover for this year, stop it. Until you know if you're a true contender, stop it.
I don't like it. To me, it's compounding a mistake. You should have took Asante Samuel Jr. round 2 this year. Now you're going to try to fix it in September or November or October. There is a month between September and November. No, you can't do that. What you should do is spend that second round pick on a corner next year. That way you get 4 years of him cheap. That's the whole idea. Plus he'll be 21, 22 as opposed to 24, 25. You messed up. But you do it right next year. And the year after that. From now on, you do it right. You draft these corners. You don't do the Jason Verrett thing ever again. It worked for 14 games. Don't do it ever again. Let me get this first round pick who's missed the last 4 years with 7 different injuries. No. That is not. And they were like, see, we're vindicated. This works. No, it freaking doesn't. Don't do that anymore. I don't know how we got on this. That's not about the dog mindset anymore. Let's talk about the player to watch this Sunday.
Player to watch. For me, I'm actually going across the ball here. It's not a 49er that I want to see. It's maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but I want to see how Steven Nelson looks. I want to see how the guy that we could have been plugging in on our side of the ball this week looks on the opposite side of the ball. And I do think that the 49ers should look to push the ball a little bit. The Eagles are going to try to sell out to stop the run. I would play up close to the line of scrimmage. I would certainly take advantage of the fact that Jimmy traditionally throws underneath over the middle. So try to push deep, try to test those cornerbacks. I don't think that the Falcons really did a great job of it last week. Scheme took it away, but the 49ers can suck up that defense and then beat them over the top.
I'm going to say the player to watch. I'm going to pick an Eagles player too. I'm going to go Niners here. I'm going to say Trent Sherfield. Here. I don't think Debo's going to be able to do what he did to Jeff Okudah. That beautiful touchdown catch down the field where he adjusted and Okudah couldn't find the ball. Darius Slay's a whole lot better than him. I think Slay can cover Debo downfield. Debo's going to be involved more as like in the running game, I would think, and on short stuff, manufactured. It's going to be tough for him to get open, I think. And then Kittle, I think, is going to get bracketed. Eagles, it just seems so obvious. Let's put our number one on Debo. He had 12 targets last week. Let's bracket Kittle and let's see what we do. And plus, they're thinking, well, they don't even like Ayuk. And they may not, but they really do like Trent Sherfield. And there's one or two things Kyle could do here. He said, we're setting everyone up on the okie doke. Everyone thinks we don't like Ayuk. Now we're going to go to Ayuk today. I don't think Kyle is Mr. Double Down. And if he says Trent Sherfield is the truth, he means it. And this could be an opportunity for him to say, look, again, nothing against Brandon Ayuk, but this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And instead of having wild shifts week by week based on what the fans want me to do, I'm going to stick to my guns and show you that Trent Sherfield is everything that I'm saying he is. So I'm not saying 10 targets for Sherfield, but maybe a crucial target early, like last year, maybe another touchdown, maybe a big play. Trent Sherfield. And I got more, but keep going.
A bit of an "I told you so" from Kyle. A way to illustrate that, hey, I told you it wasn't just on Brandon Ayuk. Trent earned this.
Thank you. Isn't that totally in Kyle Shanahan's personality to do that?
100%.
And it's fair. Trent Sherfield is good, so that's what I expect. Now on the Eagles, the guy I've been so obsessed with all week, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is so interesting to me because he looked good week one, and then in retrospect, why did he go at 54th? Why did he go mid-second round? The Niners took Brandon Ayuk over Jalen Hurts. The Niners, if there's a future where Ayuk doesn't work out and Trey Lance doesn't work out, Jalen Hurts is a lot like Trey Lance. He does a lot of those things right now at a high level, and he's not throwing the short passes 100 miles an hour. It seems like he fell to the second round for no good reason. He played early, very young at Alabama, and famously got pulled from that national championship. And Tua was better than him. Okay. Then he went to Oklahoma and had a very good season. And really, his numbers and efficiency were right there with Kyler Murray's. Kyler wins a national championship. Kyler wins the Heisman and goes 1. Hurts doesn't win the Heisman, goes 54th. Is there a 54 slot difference between them? I think they're actually very similar. And Kyler didn't play those 2 years. He was hanging around. He was a backup. While people were writing off Jalen Hurts, I don't think people really even watched him at Oklahoma. He had been written off at that point. And Kyler plays one good year at Oklahoma, goes 1. Hurts plays one good year at Oklahoma, goes 54th. I think the Eagles have a steal. He does a lot of the things that Kyler Murray does without as strong of an arm. I'm really eager to watch it.
It's one of those interesting scenarios where once a quarterback doesn't go at a certain point in the draft, he becomes a steal. You look at the Packers getting Aaron Rodgers falling into their laps. Sometimes the draft just breaks out in a way where a player who should have gone to a quarterback needy team didn't, because those teams had other holes as well. And now all of a sudden the Eagles are the beneficiary of that because this guy has slipped well past where his talent should have dictated he be taken.
I have another hot take.
Jalen
Jalen Hurts will have a better season this year than Mac Jones and Tua. I'm not saying he'll have the best career of those quarterbacks because maybe Mac Jones has the most longevity as the pocket passer. But This year, next year, the year after that, Jalen Hurts will be the number one guy.
Statistically speaking.
And all my hot takes work out. I'm always right when I go out on a limb, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone pull a receipt that had anything but 100% accuracy.
And if you saw anything else, it was 100% photoshopped. I just want to say that. I'd like to
Fake
just bring up that
news.
Trey has 100% completion percentage and a 127 rating. Time to start. LOL, they average 45 plus with Trey. Bet. I'm just saying, look. If they wanted to start slow with him and give him one throw and 3 runs, well, he passed the test on the throw, and they blame themselves for the run. So I think you give him 2 throws in this game. I'd like to see 2 throws. Can we get 2? How about 2? Can we get 2? You got to give him more, right? He earned a second throw. I'm just saying. Biggest
At
question mark
least.
in week 2.
All right. Biggest question mark going into week 2 is, can the 49ers stop the run in my book? And I'll answer it for myself. Nope. I don't think so. I think not. I think they will be gashed. I think that part of that will be Jalen Hurts gashing them. But I think when you add up the rushing yards for this game, it's going to be impressive on both sides of the ball. I think both defenses are susceptible to this. I believe the 49ers will attempt to sell out to stop the run. And I think that leaves them vulnerable over the top. And when enough plays beat them over the top, they are going to have to adjust to that and then give up more gashes in the run game. I just think that talent-wise, after the injury and with the concerns for those players that are questionable or doubtful, this is a tough matchup.
My biggest question mark is D'Amico. Simple as that. D'Amico Ryan. Because there's 2 things he needs to do. He has to have the right defensive front. That's on him. And he needs to make it a point of emphasis for his defensive ends and his whole defensive line to contain Hurts. Of course, you got to stop the run. But then also you got to contain Hurts, because if they stop the run but let Hurts run around on the perimeter all day, they're going to lose. So if you just keep him in the pocket and make him execute, he'll throw picks. He's inexperienced. He will look inexperienced and he'll lose. So they have to make him execute from the pocket, keep him in the pocket. It's the kind of stuff that they struggle with. It's really hard to do. Let's say that. It's really freaking hard to keep a great athlete in the pocket. I mean, who can do it to Russell Wilson? People have been trying to do it for 10 years for Russell Wilson. Really, no one can do it for Kyler Murray. The Falcons couldn't do it last week. So the Niners, you got to. And if Eric Armstead doesn't play, maybe that's for the best, because he can't. Ebukam can. I think he can. Nick Bosa, you got to. This is huge. This is the difference between winning and losing. Keeping him in the pocket.
It certainly is a question of discipline, and difficult for a team that prides themselves on just getting after the passer down after down after down, to actually throttle that back a little bit and take a different approach to this, because we're going to have 4 more games this year against wildly successful mobile quarterbacks. So better start now.
Good practice. And the real reason the Niners drafted Trey Lance is so that they could have a good scout team quarterback who could give them that look. So that they should have that this week.
That's next level planning by Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, you thought we traded up for someone who would play in the games? No. We're light years beyond the rest of the NFL. This is for practice. No. This is just for our practice squad, essentially.
I can't fault him for that logic.
Isn't necessarily good enough to make our team.
It's gonna take the spot from Jimmy G. I don't think so.
We love Jimmy G. Did we not say that? Okay, 49ers fantasy special. Where are you going with this?
This one is hard to predict for me. I was dead on with Debo, thankfully, in week 1, and started him in every league that I have him, which is like 5 out of my 6 leagues. 6 leagues. I know it's ridiculous.
Good move.
However, in the one league where I had both Brandon Ayuk and Debo, I left Ayuk in there and regret that decision immensely.
Started Ayuk?
Yeah.
Oh, you must be mad at Kyle deep down.
Deep down,
Maybe
there's a little bit.
Yourself? I don't know. One or the other.
A little bit. Thankfully, I wasn't willing to reach for Sermon, so the fact that he didn't play in week 1 didn't hurt me. But I will say that I think that that's the surprise for me coming out of this, is that I think that we've heard Sermon is going to play on Sunday. I believe that was confirmed by the 49ers now on KMBR, perhaps. And to me, it would be just like Shanahan to then have another running back breakout and have the bigger game. So while everyone spent their hard-earned draft dollars to pick up Eli Mitchell, I think it's going to be Trey Sermon that has the breakout game on Sunday. I believe that his short area quickness, his burst initial burst and the ability to break that first tackle is going to come into play against this talented defensive line. And once you get through to those linebackers, now you have the advantage.
I like Sermon too. I don't know if the Niners do though. I'm going to say something. I'm not sure Sermon's going to suit up for this game. He might be inactive again. Here's why. Okay, here's why. So he didn't suit up week 1. Elijah Mitchell was supposed to be the number 2 running back. He was the kick returner. But then Mostert goes down. Mitchell becomes a starter. No more kick returns for Mitchell. Ambry Thomas took over. But they could let Ambry Thomas continue to return the kicks. But they just picked up this guy this week. Trenton Cannon, running back. He's a kick returner. So I don't know what they want to do here. But if they want Trenton Cannon to be their kick returner instead of Ambry Thomas, then Sermon would have to be the 4th active running back. They could do it. I mean, there's no rule against it. I think they should, but I don't know if they will. I'm just saying they probably will activate Sermon, but it's not a layup. It's not a slam dunk.
No, you certainly have to keep your eye on your fantasy team. If you plug him into your starting lineup, you better double check right before kickoff because there's a chance you get that goose egg if you don't.
Let me ask real quick. I don't play fantasy football anymore. You can update your team right before until.
Bless you. Bless you.
You can update your team right before kickoff, right? Like after the inactives are announced. Okay.
Yeah, you can right up until kickoff, 10 o'clock.
All right. I'm sticking with Mitchell. I think the Niners are going to ride Mitchell. If they like him, I think if he doesn't play a good game, I think Niners are in trouble. Maybe Hasty Sermon could do it. But right now, that's the one that running back they seem to have confidence in. And last year when they played the Eagles, they lost. The running back they had in that game was Jerick McKinnon. He was awful. So if they don't have a running back that can do what Mostert does, and that was Mitchell last week, Niners are in big problems. They have big problems. They're not going to score many points. They're going to lose. So I think really, from a fantasy perspective, from a real perspective, Mitchell is so important. Or whichever running back, it could be Sermon. I'm going to say that week 1 was an indicator of where they're going. I'm saying Mitchell. Mitchell is big deal. Big deal. Curious to see what he can do.
There's every possibility that Mitchell ends up with more rushing yards and Sermon ends up with the goal line touches and vultures a couple of touchdowns. I think it could go either way.
Good point. Because last week, Hasty got Mitchell didn't get the goal line carry. Hasty got it. So if Sermon's available, maybe they'll do it like that. Maybe from a fantasy perspective, Sermon gets that touchdown or Lance. You always got to worry about that.
That's what makes Shanahan's offense is so frustrating from a fantasy perspective is you just do not know from week to week.
And I think he likes trolling fantasy owners too. I probably would if I were a head coach because I don't play that game. Brian says Niners couldn't stop 2019 Kyle Allen or CMC too. They definitely stopped Kyle Allen. They couldn't stop CMC. Took the words out of my mouth. Sermon is surprised. Could be Sermon. It'd be interesting if they do a 180 on Sermon and Ayuk because those two were buried last week.
Maybe it's just me, but that idea that you need to send the message seems so old school and so, like the machismo to that is like, can you not just talk to these guys? Can you not just coach them up? Can you not just like sit down man to man and say, hey, listen, this is what I expect from you.
Right.
You're not currently living up to it. And as opposed to hurting the team by taking physically gifted players off of the field and substituting less physically gifted players for them. That's frustrating.
It is frustrating. But Kyle's old school like that. And again, I don't think interpersonal interactions are his forte. Just don't think they are. He would rather just bench you and not talk about it and have you get the picture. Okay.
It's like giving your wife the silent treatment instead of just having the awkward conversation that you need to have to get over the fight.
Yeah, just have the fight and then it's over. Just let her say it, you say, and then it's over. As opposed to sitting in your room, folding socks, putting your cell phone time out. All right, week 2 prediction. How's this going to go?
To me, this is going to be a barn burner. I believe that both teams are going to light each other up, rushing the ball. It's going to be very exciting to watch in my prediction. I think that it edges out ever so slightly for the 49ers. I predict 34-31. I think it's a push on the betting line. I'm not going to take the 49ers in this one. If I'm looking to lay down any money, I'm taking the over. And I just think that any big injuries, any mistakes by the 49ers could prove costly. This is a very talented Eagles team, and they cannot take them lightly.
I completely agree with your prognostication and your score, like 100%, 34-31. I do think it's funny, though, that oftentimes when you can kind of dupe out a game like this, you see it, I see it, of course the coaches see it. Wouldn't it be funny if neither team could run the ball in this game? Neither team can run the ball because both teams have it's obvious that that's what they want to do, and both teams have a really good defensive plan to stop it. Wouldn't it be really funny if this came down to Jimmy Garoppolo versus Jalen Hurts throwing? That'd be funny. I don't know who I would take. I think I might know who. I don't know. I'm going with you, 34-31. But football could be funny. So watch it be like 17-11, 12.
Yeah, if it ends up Hurts versus Garoppolo, that's less funny, haha, for me, and more funny, oh, not good.
Again, if the Niners can keep Hurts in the pocket, they'll do well. But I mean, Jimmy's not going anywhere. So if he can't get the ball out of his hands quickly, he has problems. If he doesn't have guys getting open quickly, he's going to have problems. And again, if he gets, I haven't said this yet, so I don't know why I said again. People just say that again, like something you say all the time. It's a mantra of mine. If Jimmy Garoppolo gets hit a couple of times early in this game, watch out. I think what happened last week is he got to like the second quarter and he was like, oh, look at my jersey. This is easy. This is fun. No one's touching me. I like football. This is like 7-on-7. If he gets hit a few times, he just seems like the kind of guy who's not really about it. He's like, ooh, this is going to be a long day. I got to protect myself.
Especially when that pressure.
Too negative about Jimmy Garoppolo.
Way to just take us down on the last segment of the show.
Sorry.
Unbelievable, Grant.
Niners need a cornerback. Stephon Gilmore don't want to be with the Pats. Trade for him, back heavy contract. I don't know, man. Look. Mosley should come back soon. And him and Lenore solid. No? Norman's okay. Sherman's
the
out
Gilmore
there.
move would be 2019 vibes through and through, because you'd be trading for a guy on an expiring contract with no guarantee that you're going to be able to sign him back. Giving up assets to bring in a quality player for only 2021 could be a real shoot yourself in the foot move.
Right. And if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, then you go into next year with no draft picks and, a total, not a rebuild, but a retool without the tools to retool.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I love Gilmore, and I would love to get him onto this team. I just don't know that you can actually execute that trade this year until you know you're a contender.
I think the lesson that we learned here is that when it's freaking obvious that you need a cornerback, that's a March thing. That's an April thing. No, that's May, late April, early May. Late April, early May. There's 3 days. You just get to pick them. They're there. You pick them. That's when you do it. And, you don't do it with the 102nd, 103rd pick. It's the 45th pick. Yeah. Rob, this was just a phenomenal show. Just a great show. I had a blast. Really glad I'm not in West Virginia right now. No offense to the people of West Virginia. It's just I'm in my bedroom. It's the greatest place to be. I'm living the dream. So are you.
So comfortable. Motown Philly's back again. You don't have to be there. But no cheesesteaks. That's a letdown. It would be nice to have a cheesesteak.
It would have been nice to have a cheesesteak, but I was in Philly 3 years ago in 2018. So I've been to Philly. I had a good time. I had the wrong cheesesteak, though. I had a bad cheesesteak experience, so I need to go back and try it again.
Yeah, you got to look up the ones that the locals swear by, because there's a couple of touristy ones that are.
No, my cousin is a local, and he I was looking for a cheesesteak, and he was like, no, you got to go with like the roast pork or something. And I went somewhere and it was like pork and broccoli rabe, and I was like, yo, this is not what I flew across the country to get. But thanks. I mean, he meant well. He just didn't see it from my perspective on that one. So I got like halfway through that. I was like, wow, I'm gonna have to come back to Philly now. I'm gonna come back to Philly. So Mike McGlinchey says Delisandro's is the one. I'll give that a shot. I want Cheese Whiz. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I want the cheese and the whiz.
The whiz. You need the whiz.
Gotta have the whiz. Oh, there's one more. Rod Simmons says if our corners can score a C+ grade, I trust the defense. We are versatile at every position outside of CB, and I really think you guys underestimate D'Amico. I hope I do. Only thing, look, like that's what the Arizona Cardinals are doing right now. They don't have great corners, but they have such a great front seven and pass rush. It's all good. They just shut down. What's his name? Derrick Henry. Yeah, that guy. They shut him down. The Niners couldn't shut down DeAndre Swift. So if the Niners can't stop the run, play action will be a big threat, and these corners will have a very difficult job. So Javon Kinlaw, play. Eric Armstead, play and play well. You guys, it's important. Otherwise, Azeez Al-Shaair is going to have no chance. And Jimmy Ward's going to be making a lot of tackles downfield, which is not good.
No. I would agree that if we can get that decent play out of the cornerbacks, that we will have a better game than what I'm actually predicting. I just haven't seen the halftime adjustments from DeMeco Ryan. I felt like we had some vulnerabilities on Sunday last week that were not addressed in game. So that's what I'm looking to see going forward, to renew my faith in DeMeco's ability to adjust in game.
See, this is what I'm saying. He says only tourists get cheese whiz on their steaks. That's what I'm saying, man. My cousin sent me to like the real non-touristy place, and I was like, I don't like it. Can I get the touristy one, please? Sorry. I'm with you. That's what my cousin was trying to tell me, man. Like, there's basically something else that they get out there that they pretend to like more. I think it's kind of weird.
I'm a provolone guy when it comes to my Philly cheesesteaks. Give me a
like
good provolone.
Can you ask Rob when he's going live on his channel next? Yeah, before we go, tell us when you're going live on your channel next.
I was live on my channel on Wednesday. I'm thinking Wednesdays at 4 is going to be a regular time, and I'm looking at doing a Saturday release and then a Sunday post game. So look for an announcement coming out. Follow me on Twitter at the Left Schuh, SCHUH, and go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Rob Schuh, spelled in German, SCHUH.
Woo! Oh, in German. Okay. That's okay. I can take that.
It's very, if you're German, it's just Schuh, S-H-O-E. It's
true.
the German spelling of Schuh. When you go over there, they're like, oh yeah, I know how to spell that. When you're here, you get telemarketers that are like, Skahoo? Yes, Mr. Ska?
Yeah. Well, people say Khan for me. It's like,
I bet.
Yeah. Am I the first Jew you've ever met? Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone. Been a pleasure. And I will be back in 40 minutes with Coach Noah Johnson. See you then.